Good morning. Hey, Brian. How are you doing?
Wow. Whoa, you were way too enthusiastic for me. I'm going to have to dial that back a notch.
No, no. I figured I needed to come in with some energy. Just like,
I
good
got
morning.
yeah, yes. That's public speaking 101 right there.
Yeah. Just start yelling at people
Yep,
when you come in.
just grab them right from the get go with some high volume intensity.
Grab and twist.
That's right. Woke up this morning to rip your balls off like a paper towel.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so I think it's just Brian and I today, or at least it is so far, unless anyone else shows up. But
Yeah,
that's
I
what
mean
it
at
is.
this
That's what
point,
it is. Yeah.
it would maybe be Kyle would be the only one who would probably pop in at this
Pop in
point.
like later on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Oh my God, literally, Jeremy just jumped in. So
did he?
once I see that he has headphones on, I'll add him to the stream.
See, and I thought I was going to miss the 9 o'clock free crack giveaway.
Well, I mean, admittedly, time, so that's a little bit
Yeah,
slower
it's
than.
like what? So that makes it 7 for him.
I mean, it's all like Einstein relativity, right? Like it's
Yeah.
different. It's like that movie. What was it? Interstellar, where he's
Mm-hmm.
like the distance from the black hole and all that shit.
Yep.
That makes sense, right?
Yeah. It's totally not made up.
That's my understanding of how time zones work.
Yeah. Saturday here. What is it there? Thursday?
Oh, geez. Man, there was literally what was it? Somebody one time was trying to tell me that daylight savings time exists because of like the inconsistencies in the rotations of the Earth compared to like its orbit, And I'm like, no, that's leap year. You're talking about leap year, but daylight savings times is a whole other thing that we just made up for no reason at all. Like they're not the same
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah,
Like
we
they're
made it
not.
up for farmers so that daylight happened at the time that they needed it to happen.
It's like, that's not why daylight savings times exists. It has nothing to do with any real scientific thing other than like we want more time. That-
Yeah.
And it
We
doesn't
want
do that. It
we
doesn't
want
do
more
that.
usable hours where sun is in the peak time frame.
Yeah, yeah. Jeremy has headphones on, but I don't know if he's on yet.
I'm on.
Oh, okay. I don't
You're
know.
on mountain time.
Look, 7 o'clock is Charlie's wake up time. So this is, you know,
No, it's fucking early. I know.
But we did it.
I just seemed like a good time for our European friends.
well,
So
fuck
that-
them. I'm sorry. Are we live right now?
Yes, we are
Drink some
live.
more coffee.
Oh,
Hey, Jeremy? Did you click on the auto preset thingy, Medusa?
yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Let me do it again. All right. No, I'm kidding. All of our listeners are great. You're all good. I'm just tired and grumpy. That's all. My apologies.
And whatever
Normally
the
he's
reason
just
is
grumpy.
That it's 7.
No, I'm just always tired and grumpy. It's just the level of caffeine or alcohol I've consumed.
Yeah.
Or both simultaneously.
Yeah, we were talking about the primary issue was the relativity of the time zones and how like interstellar. So
Yeah, I caught something about daylight savings time being fucking dumb.
I didn't say that. I intentionally avoided my own opinions on anything.
No, I'm sorry. The person trying to explain daylight savings time was fucking dumb. Who was it, by the way? It doesn't matter. I don't care.
This is what I showed up for. Uncaffeinated, angry Jeremiah.
I mean, ultimately, caffeinated angry Jeremiah is not much different.
No,
It's just less caffeine
that.
to it.
It's just that
less-
faster.
Yeah, it's pissed off and fast. What are we doing here? What the fuck?
I think we
we're
were gonna,
looking at it.
yeah, I think we were going to do Q&A stuff, and I have the little piece of paper that I wrote down everyone or the shooting shit from the APC on. So that was fun.
Oh.
Yeah. Like as we were going along and jotting down notes, and then I went back through and wrote down time codes and shit like that for the what damage did what.
For the daylight savings time, the time codes.
Well, more so the time codes because our live recording times don't match up with the episode record like times in the end. It's not exactly
Spoiler.
the same. Sometimes things get cut.
Ignore the man behind the curtain.
Sometimes long awkward pauses get trimmed.
And sometimes they don't.
But yeah, so after all that was said and done, I went back and kind of wrote down like where those were in the episode for reference sake. So I intended on typing this up, but then I didn't. So I thought about doing it as like a presentation with like PowerPoints and shit.
No, I get it.
Oh
I
my
thought about
gosh.
being here on time, and then I wasn't. So
I should have put it in. I should have put it in Chat GPT and been like, make this into a presentation, and it'd been like, what am I making into a presentation?
I don't know
understand
what
this
this is.
garbage.
What is this?
None of these words are cohesive with each other.
That's how you accidentally summon demons. That's all I'm saying. Like,
I wonder if they used the Necronomicon as one of the many books to like train AI.
probably.
I would just assume so.
So theoretically, AI could summon Cthulhu, is what we're saying.
Yeah. I recently read a story talking about how there were requests for medical data, so that way they could train AI to like
that's fun.
scan MRIs and shit like that.
Right, which will actually just make it so that they can know where the weak point is.
I mean, honestly, I support our robot overlords. It's fine.
That's
I'm
actually,
with you, Jeremy.
I welcome
Yeah, me
That's
too.
actually what I said in a meeting Thursday. They were the icebreaker question for the meeting that I went to was, would you rather go to the future or the past? And I mean, they went around this whole room and it was like past. It was either they wanted to go to a certain point in time because they were a nerd about it, or they wanted to go back in time and try and back to future it. Like, I'm going back with sports stats and I'm going to make all this money when I come back, to now. I'll be rich. And I was like, they were like, so what do you want to do? I was like, I want to go to the future so I can be the first one to bow down to our AI overlords. I want preferential treatment for being the first.
I mean, but then you need to know what day that's going to happen on. You know what I mean? So you can be like,
Well,
right
they didn't
into
tell
it.
me I couldn't just keep scanning.
That's a fair point.
Just skipping ahead in the episode. It's like,
Yeah.
Where's that?
Not
that's a
yet,
fair
not
point.
yet, not yet. Now.
now.
Oh, hell yeah.
That's what I really love about the Time Machine, like the H.G. Wells novel, because he just goes forward until he gets to the end of the solar system, and it's amazing.
Yeah. That is a good book. Brian, how are you doing today?
I'm here. I'm above ground sucking air.
Yeah. We know.
Glenn, I will consider you properly fucked up.
Glenn just earned 1,000 cool points for that.
Give that man a challenge coin.
A notional fan challenge coin. He gets
It's
first.
it's the properly one because of all of the way that like British people say things, properly fucked is like one of my favorite. I don't know why, but I love it so much.
Because
It amuses me.
improperly fucked. Implies a whole
The
other
implication,
thing.
yeah, of an
This is that there's
improperly
two
fucked.
different.
There's
Yeah.
properly fucked
Yeah.
and improperly fucked.
It's like, wait, which one's worse?
I think properly fucked is probably worse.
I guess.
Oh god.
You're doing it all wrong.
Except for Kyle, it's more because of the gimp mask. Oh god, it's gonna be one of those mornings.
Yeah. Alrighty.
Yeah, I don't know how you saw it going.
This is exactly how I saw it going.
Yeah, let's get the whole barrel of monkey.
Let's see who shows up at 9, 8, 7 o'clock in the morning. depending on where they live.
I was too busy laughing. I have no idea how Brian was doing.
Properly fucked does not buy us dinner first, I guess. So that's good. That's good to know.
Clearly, you've never been in
Oh,
I can't.
This is like one of my favorite things, by the way, is being able to throw it over there.
I didn't even. I see. I wasn't even aware we could do that.
Right?
Check that
Right?
out.
It's pretty cool, huh? So you guys want to talk about that APC fight? How that shit went?
No,
down?
go fuck yourself.
Yeah. Jeremy, what was your experience in that fight with that APC?
I was actually pretty bored for most of it.
Yeah.
For like 90% of that fight, I was fairly bored. As a matter of fact, I think I was on Facebook or Discord or something at the time. I was tuned out.
Yeah. I don't know. It seemed like you were paying attention to what was going on. At least somewhat. Like
Notionally.
popping in every once in a while. But yeah, so I mean, I think you guys might have had a general idea of like what its armor rating was at one point. Because okay, so the
Not this guy.
APC's
Stay clueless the whole
armor
time.
rating was a 4, right? So that means it required more than 4 points of damage to go through it, right?
Okay.
So anything less than 4 just was an external hit, is the way that
Right,
works
you were
with
just
vehicle.
riddling into the side of the.
Yeah, it
Gotcha.
just wasn't doing anything. So since your weapons that you all were using were 3 damage and like it literally required 3 successes for a point of damage to make it past the armor. So that was why for the most part, most of your guys' shots were like ping, 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 ping. Because it was like 2 is going to literally be 1 success was hitting it. That's 3 points of damage. And then another success makes 4, which doesn't make it through the armor.
Which that totally makes sense because that's kind of how APCs work.
Oh yeah.
They're generally intended to armor the personnel that are being
Right.
carried within it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the name is implied,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Well, and in all fairness, I mean, I was not planning on fighting it like that.
Yeah.
None of us were.
I was supposed to be covering a retreat, and then nobody retreated, and then it ran me over.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that
Like
was
I
kind of what
planned
I
on
thought you guys were
shooting,
gonna
like
do.
I planned on like shooting twice and then trying to run, and I shot once, and then it was on top of me.
That's what she said.
Yeah, it was a bit before. I mean, it was a couple rounds before because it's for. All right, let's do this. So Shane asked the question in the chat, what the like how many people were actually inside of it. To begin with, there were 8. There were the 3 people that are the crew, the gunner, the driver, and the commander, and then 5 infantry.
Holy
Right.
smokes!
Yeah, because the encounter card was 2 times the number of PCs, right? And it was, so that's 8. Yeah.
Math.
Wow, we
Yeah.
were worse off than I thought we were.
Yeah. Now, so let's just, if you guys want, I can go down the timeline of basically what happened during that from the inside view of it.
What about
What?
messages?
Make sure you set your chats to all messages, not top messages, or YouTube is gonna leave stuff out. Okay.
Is that a YouTube setting?
Maybe. You all have fought. Is that a thing that we were doing, Shane? I don't know if that's what that's doing. That might be a stream setting that I didn't set up when I set it up.
Oh, no.
Should be at all messages. Or is that a viewer thing?
I have no idea.
I don't know if that's a thing I need to change.
If it is, let us know in the chat. Well,
Yeah, if it's a thing I need to change, let me know in the chat.
Please place step-by-step directions in the comments.
But I'll do this. So that-
It's for the commenters.
Oh, okay, gotcha. All right, so that's irrelevant to. I can throw it over here.
You lowly commenters.
Oh, no.
I'm the king. You are the commenters.
That was a stretch. That was a stretch.
Yeah, that's a stretch, right?
That's it. My brain immediately went there.
All right, so when it started, so for the most part, I think it was the first hit that did anything was when Brian took a shot at it and got like 3 successes, right? And so that was then enough to actually do a point of damage to something inside. The only ones I really wrote down were ones that actually had enough damage to make it through, because the rest were irrelevant. I just, like, they pinged off the outside and did whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't too worried about those. What were the guys inside? How many guys were inside? Oh, yeah, right. Sorry. A couple questions here. What? Shane's over here. Oh, shit. I'm sorry, Skana. I apologize. And Shane. Sorry about that.
You lowly commenters. Because apparently that's the bit now.
I don't have my glasses on, so that's my excuse. So it's like, wait. Oh, yeah, right. All right. So when Brian shot in the first time, one thing, after they shot at Jeremiah, right, and they hit him, I rolled with bullet dice, and I rolled 2 like explosions on the bullet dice also. So that was part of the reason why they didn't shoot for a whole round there, because they were clearing the jam on the gun. And you guys probably didn't catch that at all, but they could have shot before they did again, and they just didn't.
Well, I actually wondered that, because the very next, after I opened up on them, the next round they go like up into the trees and didn't take a shot.
Well, they
Which
did.
is weird.
Yeah, I mean, they did after that at one point. Like, that wasn't the one I'm talking about. I'm saying when they shot at Jeremy right at the beginning, they fucking jammed the weapon, and then they moved. And the reason I had him go into the trees was because I thought that was more fun. You know, I was like, this is going to be way more fun. And,
I mean, the visual
because also they
alone of it,
started
like,
taking hits, right? So like what happened was, you got 3 successes, and you hit the radio right off the bat. That was the first thing that got hit, was the radio. So theoretically, at that point, their comms are down, right? So everything else, every other decision after that, I kind of was going with, well, their comms are down. But it's also like, are you going to know your comms are down right at that point? Or are you going to wait until it's like, oh, fuck, you know, we're starting to take shots from like lots of different locations. Like, when are they going to radio in, basically?
I mean, I feel like the radio operator, whomever that is going to notice pretty immediately.
Not notice per se. There wasn't. I mean, there's not a radio operator.
Okay, that's
a driver, a gunner, the commander. So if like he's focusing on other shit, but it's not at a point yet where he's like, we need to call for backup. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah. So, but
I
then
mean, you can hear when the headphones go dead.
Yeah, I know. But if there's other shit going on, I was going with.
Sure.
Everyone doesn't have 100% response to every single thing that happens in a 6-second round, is my point.
How dare you?
It just doesn't happen. Sometimes people's perception of events are, not 100% accurate. It's all my point. Anyway, so the first thing that got taken out was radio. And then after that, Murph shot at it, and he also got 3 successes. And then he rolled radio again. But since the radio had already been hit, it would move up to the next thing, which is the commander, right? Which then I had him roll a hit location. And he rolled helmet, which meant math. 4 points of armor plus 1 point of armor for the helmet equals 5. So it's like...
It pinged off of his helmet.
He
goes, oh, fuck.
Right. Which is, and that was, so that would have been at like the 53-minute mark of episode 121 is when that happened. Like 53:45, I think is what I wrote down. Yeah. So it was like pap. Now, the other thing, and this is probably going to be a controversial answer to this, and people are probably going to disagree with me, and that's okay. So in the rules, when it talks about armor,
immediately.
in the rules, when it talks about armor, it says you add the armor value together to get the armor value, right?
Okay.
Right. Now, if you add the armor value together, 4 for the vehicle plus 5 for the helmet is technically 5, which means a weapon that does 3 is 2 steps down from it, so it should never penetrate. If it's a head hit or a chest hit in a flak situation.
But is it... I'm sorry. I understand how the helmet is 5. But aren't those conjoined as a single thing?
That's my point. It
It
says
wouldn't be two instances of like
right.
4 and then 5. It would just be
Well, it's 4 and then
5.
1, which makes 5, is what I'm
Right.
saying.
Right.
Right. But it says in the rules that when you have like that stacks for the armor value, you add the armor value together for penetration. And so that means
It never
if
even
it's
penetrated.
5, that one that hits his helmet, even if you'd have gotten another success, wouldn't have actually even done any damage. It wouldn't have even penetrated because it can't because of the penetration rules.
Yeah, okay. But
That's what I'm saying.
since the fact that he didn't take a point of damage, either way it comes out as a wash.
It does, but
And
that becomes important later, is my point. Because there's a couple times where there were more successes, but it's still like between the armor of all the things, it's slowing down the 7.62 rounds enough.
But
that
actually, in that instance, wouldn't that still been of importance for courage under fire?
Yes.
Because if it does penetrate and the helmet is what stops it, he wouldn't take damage, but he'd still have to make a courage under fire roll.
Right,
But if
and
it
I
never penetrates the vehicle, no courage under fire roll necessary.
Now, I was rolling
Seems
courage
fair.
under fire for these, but I was doing 2 different instances of courage under fire because as far as I was concerned, there was courage, coolness, the same thing. Unless you're going with like the semantics of the rules.
How dare I? How dare I?
So coolness under fire. So I was going with 2 different instances. Like as far as I was concerned, there were 2 groups within the APC. There was the infantry guys within the APC and the crew of the APC. So when that kind of thing would happen, I would roll for both. Right. So that was how that went. So yes, I was rolling that. Yes, it would still count because it did penetrate, but yeah. And actually, the coolness under fire is why there was a bailout later on of the infantry guys. What was left of the 5 guys.
Because they don't have flax.
Right, they don't have flax. They don't have Kevlars. Well, no, they had helmets. They don't have flax.
Right.
So. But none of them had flax technically by the NPC stats.
Right. That's
probably
what I'm saying.
could
Like
have had.
the Russians typically only have helmets according to the rules.
Right. All right. So that was all of in episode 121. Those are all of the ones that actually penetrated. Now, in episode 122, there were 3 times where it actually penetrated the armor in a whole fucking episode, an hour-long one where we guys were pinging at it. 3. I wrote down 1 for Murph, and it says 2 successes. I don't know why I wrote that down. It shouldn't have done anything because 2 would be 4 points of damage, which just barely is the armor value, which means it doesn't go through at all. So, and that was at like, oh no.
You should have got ChatGPT to write your notes.
Yeah, that's fine. That's okay. I'm gonna ChatGPT. Fuck Chat. All right, so then, was it at 13 minutes? I think where Emmett got 5 successes right after that, right? Now that would be enough to do, let's see. So that's 8 points of damage total, right? 4 of that would be absorbed by the armor. So that drops it down to 4 points of damage to whatever it hits on the inside, which is still a lot and over the crit value of weapon because it was a crit of 3. So at that point I rolled passenger, which is one of the infantry guys. So now one of the infantry guys is taken out, right? So, which now we're starting to count. Now there's 4 because there were 3 guys that got out of it, like out of the APC, right? And then Murphy rolled 3 successes, and that hit the engine at that point. No, I'm sorry, that's later. Internal cargo. That one hit internal cargo. So it was like some random shit inside the vehicle took 1 point of damage. So. Yay. Fun for that. And then Emmett got another 5 successes. Passenger. Another dead passenger. That's where the second one came up. Because it was, yet again, another crit on a guy inside the APC. Now another one of the infantry guys is. And that happened right before the bailout. And that was why those guys bailed out, was because the infantry group then failed their coolness under fire roll while the tank crew was still there. And so that's why they bailed out. Was them being like, oh, fuck,
Yeah, the 2 of us have died already. We should probably get out of here.
Right. Whereas like the guys that are trained to be in the fucking quote tank are like, I'm not getting out. It's more dangerous out there.
That's dumb.
Then there's nothing between me and you, which by the way, that is one of my complaints about the rules. Like I understand the like bailout rule of a vehicle, but there's also a point where it's like, no, you fucking batten down the hatches and drive away. Like, why would you get out? If it's still mobile, leave. Like, you drive away. Like, why the fuck?
Yeah.
If your
So-
vehicle's not on fire,
In the list of things,
Yeah.
is bailout separate from flee then? Like,
okay. So technically,
because I
as
mean,
far as
could bailout be bug out basically? Like, let's just go.
I mean, if a referee were so inclined, he could interpret that as such and be like, no, they'll bug out, is what they'll do, you know?
I mean,
'Cause
yeah,
that just-
that's,
yeah.
that's what I was wondering is if those kind of things were up to a little bit more of interpretation than.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So Glenn says that it's unbelievably cramped and shitty, hard to get in and out of the tiny turret because actually the entrance that they mostly use is on top. Right. That was where when I was like the door opens on the back. And I had seen a hatch on the back, but apparently that goes to the engine. And that was my mistake. But then there were like there were hatches on the side too, which also you can get in and out of, but those are apparently harder to get in and out of than the ones on the top. But I've never been
harder.
yeah, even harder than the one in the top, which is where they actually train to come in and out of the vehicle. Apparently, I don't know why the Russians designed it that way. It's weird, but that also then goes to the Kyle trying to open the door thing. You know,
That's
Yes,
a
Jerry.
really dumb design.
it's weird. It's really weird. Like when you actually like
It's
dig
a really
into the.
dumb concept for an assault vehicle.
Well, I mean, yet again, you're not supposed to get out of it. Like it's
Well,
not
if-
like you
no,
drive up into a
okay.
thing and you quickly like you know.
No, no. If
doesn't
it's an
operate like a
APC, right?
Right.
That's what I'm saying. Like Bradleys are garbage, but at least they
Mm-hmm.
make sense conceptually. Or even like LAVs. Well, actually, those they have a hatch, right?
Scott, the Russian designs were never meant to be human friendly.
I mean, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, that's why they don't have flak jackets. They're like, whatever.
We've got enough people. People is not the problem.
Sir, we
That's
have
the-
half the number of rifles as we do men. That's okay. Get his rifle when he dies. You'll be fine.
Nobody with a rifle right now will probably live through all of this.
They're the first wave. You're the second wave. It's okay. What about those other guys behind us with no weapon? Don't worry about them.
I have
But
all
yeah,
the
it's a-
confidence in you, second wave.
But yeah, so at that point, there's the bailout, and that's when the infantry guys, what's left of them, the three, bailed out of the vehicle. So then we go into episode 123 at that point. Emmett got 3 successes on it. Yet again, that was I rolled a hit location because it hit one. It hit the gunner, if I remember. Yeah, that one hit the gunner, and hit his like he got hit and he took like 1 point of damage from it. Ultimately, is what happened because it was 3 successes. The next one was 4 successes, and that hit the ammo, right? And that like reduced their ammo by half at that point. But the problem was they had already, based upon the NPC rules of like the bullet dice, I was kind of doing like how they're going through their ammo of like reloads, and because it's more abstract than it is individual bullet counting for NPCs usually. Like when they have to reload is based on what you roll on the bullet dice, but not like numerically. It's more like when do you roll a 1, you know, and that's why I always try to roll bullet dice with NPCs no matter what, because that way they could run out, you know. So anyway, they ended up running out of. So when Emmett hit with the 4 successes, that made them run out of the rest of their ammunition. And I kind of interpreted that like the belt got, you know, dislodged or whatever, like it when it went in there, and so that it was no longer connected, so it couldn't feed into the gun, essentially. Because it wasn't like a bullet's gonna explode those rounds, you know what I mean? Like we're not talking about like a tank round, we're talking like a high explosive round, we're talking about a 7.62 round hitting it, you know. It's like, yeah,
Right. It's not the same as when I,
hit it with the AT4,
yeah,
right?
hit it with
Yeah,
AT4. That when I got ammo on that did different things.
yeah. The BTR has firing ports for the carried infantry, turn up on position, bring friends, spray a lot, wander around, remote, repeat. Yeah, so it's not quite intended as like insertion into a hot zone. It's more like insert over to here.
So it's I was in my
Go ahead.
Googling, it's their LAV, which is an amphibious
Right.
vehicle. So
Right.
and it looks exactly like fucking LAV. The only difference is apparently the back hatch and
Yeah.
the 20 millimeter or 25 millimeter gun, and they were probably like the difference between like the space pen and the pencil. You know, they're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
just don't put a hatch on it. That's how we make it watertight. You don't need a watertight door. Just don't put a door.
Oh man. Yeah. Yeah. I love the space pen fucking pencil story. It's fucking great. Just use a pencil. It's like, shit.
Yeah, the Americans spent millions of dollars inventing a pen that would write upside down or in zero gravity, and the Russians were
Yeah.
like, "Here's a pencil, fuck off."
Here's a crayon.
Right?
You'd think that with like the Americans and capitalism, we'd have been like Crayola, but no, we were, it was Bic, I think. Or was it? Anyway, doesn't matter. Then there was one more hit that had 3 successes, which was 1 point, and that actually at that point hit the commander, so he took 1 point of damage. He actually took 1 point of damage because it didn't hit him in the helmet that time. So, and then they bugged it the fuck out at that point. That was right before they bugged out. So basically, that's what was going on inside of the. Oh, I'm sorry. No, that one. Nope. I'm sorry. I apologize. It was not the commander. That was the engine that got hit, took 1 point of damage, and they were like, fuck, by this point, we're out of ammo. We're just trying to run this fucker over. Let's bug out. We don't have communication back with command. You know what I mean? We're not just going to sit here and take pot shots all day long. And they were like, we're out. So then they left. Because honestly, that's my interpretation of what happens if the people in an armored vehicle that still works fail their coolness under fire roll. You know what I mean? It's like, no, they're going to fucking leave. They're not going to get out of this protection,
Right.
Yeah.
We got to go. Absolutely.
Yeah, step 1, try to leave. If you can't,
it would have been funnier though if it was the commander that got hit. That's when they're like, he's like, okay, that's it. Now we're leaving.
Ouch.
Yeah, all these other dead guys, no problem.
Yeah.
I took 1 point of damage. Get the heck out of here.
Right, yeah. But yeah, those ones that you did the 5 successes on in episode 122, like that reduced the number of guys that got out by 2. You know what I mean? Like those both would have been 2 people getting out of the vehicle. So
yeah,
2 more people. That'd have been 5, and you guys would have been outnumbered with a mobile vehicle. Now, my original plan with the APC, I'd kind of thought about coming around and flanking, which was partly why they went up and through the trees in the first place. But then I was like, oh shit, they could just run them over. Why wouldn't they just run them over? Why would they waste ammo on somebody they could just run over? You know what I mean? Like,
it's a guy on the ground.
Hey, there's a machine gunner there. Let's drive up around, flank around the other shots we're taking from other directions, come in from the side, and like run the machine gunner over. So yeah. But yeah, so that was the basic breakdown. The radio was down. The engine took a point of damage at 1 point, which reduces its reliability down to 4 from 5, and dead passengers and ammo. The ammo getting damaged. So that was basically out of all of that. That was all that happened inside of that vehicle, inside of that
all
APC.
That happened, but that was
it's a lot.
Guy just trying to chew up.
It's yeah.
Yeah, I realized pretty early on in that fight, like, I think I'm the only one who can really do anything in this fight. Like, it really came clear, like, quick, like, with the ammo die and how much you needed to actually get through. It was like, I might be the only one who's actually doing anything other than just,
100% true. Like, looking at it, it was 100% true. It was like, all of the ones that I had to write down, like, what was happening on the inside, there was, like, 1, 2 from Chris. And then it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like 8, like 6 or 7 of them from Emmett. And that was the bullet dice. It was, because that's giving you more successes, which is increasing the damage.
Right, and that was the only thing you could do at that point in time, unless you had something like a 50 cal or something like that was where you had that high enough damage to start with.
Yeah, because the component damage for, like, if it's penetrated, a 10 is the radio, a 9 is the commander, an 8's the gunner, then 7 is passenger, driver, cargo, ammunition, suspension, engine, and fuel. And the only way you're really going to stop the vehicle is if on the outside you're hitting the wheels or the tracks, which is a 1 on the external component, which no one ever hit, or you could aim at those things, which nobody did. But then you have a vehicle that doesn't have wheels and can't move that you have to now fix, which you guys
Right. Well, and
didn't
that was
want.
that was
So
part of it too. It's like I even had that thought in the process was, if we chew up the good parts of this, like at this point, if we survive, we're losing this vehicle either way.
yeah, the axe. That was, and I was like trying to I was thinking about it with the axe. Like I'm like, it's all right. Let's look at the penetration of the axe. It's like, no, it's not going to do anything. Like you can't. You're not going to be able to axe your way.
It'll fuck up the paint.
Into the APC.
They're specifically
Excuse me, sir.
designed
Can you let me in?
to knock, knock, knock.
Tap, tap. Like that'd have been potentially more effective than hitting it with an axe. Like in a 6-second round, like if you had all day, maybe, like eventually you could pry something open.
You break the handle first, probably.
Yeah, you would end up with the head of an axe stuck inside of a crack or crevice.
Yeah, and it was also brought up about like being able to like just throw a grenade in. You know what I mean? Like open a hatch and drop a grenade. Except that's a very Hollywood thing. Like they generally don't design armored vehicles to, be a tin can you could just drop a grenade in, like they're not set up that way. They usually lock from the inside when you close the hatch so that people don't just come up and open it, because it would defeat the purpose of the armored vehicle if you could just open it from the outside. And also the like windows that like what they're looking at are like periscopes, right? And then they have like firing slots that you could shoot out of, but those are like yet again opened from the inside, not from the outside. So yeah. But the periscopes, yeah, it's like you're looking out through this thing, and so if you shoot at it, you're still not shooting at the person. You're just shooting at the little periscope view, which is like those little weird rectangles around the sides of it. So, and the driving too. Like if you have the front hatches closed on the windows, which is the other thing Kyle wanted to do, which they didn't, because that was the other thing. The Soviets were trained to button up the vehicles, which was part of the critique about them. The way they would use their armored vehicles was when they were patrolling, they would be all buttoned up, which would hinder their reconnaissance, essentially, like their ability to spot targets. But it also provided more protection by doing that. So anyway, yeah, that's the basically what happened inside the APC. Questions, comments, concerns? Jeremy,
I'm so happy. I'm so happy that when my dumbass went in open contract, I did not end up in LAVs. Fuck those things.
They were fun to ride in.
And I'm gonna add BTRs to that because fuck those things. No,
all right. So when I was stationed with the Marines, usually the companies will be divided up into like different. So a battalion, the 3 different rifle companies within the infantry battalion. Usually you'll have one company's the tracks company, and then you'll have another one that's like the helicopters one, and then you have another one that's like boat insertion, or just you're fucking walking basically. And one of the companies I was with at one point, it was the tracks one, and that was pretty fucking fun. It was cool. It was like driving off the ships into the fucking water and like making your way to land. We went to Korea and it was like that, but it did feel a lot like sitting in a coffee can floating in the middle of the ocean. It's like, what if this fills with water? It's not like this is really a boat. It's just a big fucking metal box in the water. But they were fun. And then the helicopter, I mean, all of that shit's fucking dangerous. like looking back, it was like...
Helicopters they're different kind of dangerous. They're all dangerous, just different kind of dangerous.
So that's a good question. Would you all have engaged the APC if you knew how many people were in it or how much armor? But I mean, your guys' plan was more so to like sit back and try to like
harass them.
Right.
Was the plan. Our plan was not to do full frontal assault.
Yeah.
It just fucking kind of ended up that way
because
we fucked up.
Right. And how that started was
from the jump.
So I gave the commander the like negatives for in a vehicle, the range, blah blah blah, like, and I rolled fucking ridiculously high on his recon, and then Chris rolled like 1 success or whatever it was. I was like, well, I guess he saw that guy, and then told them like point the guns down the road, if somebody else runs down the road, runs across the road, take them out. And then
someone else ran across the road.
someone else ran across the road, and then they went.
It's so weird because in my suggestion, it was one of us go to the north and the other one go across the road. But I'm dumb.
Yeah, and a lot of that was based off of the map, because I did kind of make it where it's like, well, if you could see them from here, then if you go across, like there's, there, then, and I kind of let you guys tell me, where are you going? What are you doing? And at that point it was like, well, they had a clear line of sight from where you're crossing the road. So, okay, then here we go. But yeah, I don't know. I genuinely thought it was a bad idea from like the beginning. I was like, why are you guys engaging this? All right. I get, and like the whole time you're talking, I'm setting up a map because I'm like, I guess we're doing this. I guess you guys are
might as well be
attacking this.
prepared. They're going to do this.
I didn't even set up a map because I didn't think you were going to do this.
Because this is dumb. Why would you do this?
This is
Here we go.
definitely a waste a day. Go back. Just waste a shift.
Just
and
go around. All right, Adam, do I think there were any way they could have taken the APC out without losses, perfect dice rolls notwithstanding? Yes, I do. But they wanted the APC. If their goal was to take out the APC, that's the difference, right? So, like, I think if what they wanted to do was take out the APC, their odds would have been better because they could have disabled it. They could have made it so it couldn't just drive away. Right. But that wasn't their goal. Their goal was to have the APC fully functional.
Yeah,
right.
We were wanting to
and that adds an extra level of like handicapping yourself. You know what I mean? Like you want it so you could drive it. So you're not shooting out the tires and, trying to take out the tracks or whatever the vehicle has. So that's where the problem came in, was you guys were outgunned. You didn't have a weapon that was properly designed for it. You just happened to have ones that could even penetrate the armor. Because if you guys had M16s, it wouldn't have even done anything. It would have just been pinging off the outside of the vehicle. The only reason you were even penetrating the armor with 3 successes to do damage to something inside was because they were 7.62. Yeah. Yeah. So the answer, long answer, no. No, I don't. For what their objective was, no, I don't think they were properly equipped to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think with what Chris had seen when he did the initial recon, it's like we were thinking this might just be like a 2 to 3 man group. So if you could take out, 1 or 2, then you might have a chance of being able to take the guy out who's trying to flee. But if we would have known that there was 8, I don't think we would have ever engaged if we would have actually had a proper head count. Like, oh, we're double outmanned, 2 times what we have, plus they're all inside of an armored vehicle. It would have been like, no, this is dumb. But with his initial recon, he said he's like, I saw 2 guys. I've seen 2, so it's like, okay, well they just set up a basic normal roadblock with like a driver and a gunner, just kind of watching the road.
Or I mean, it could have even been like 4 to 6 would still be 8 is we're not gonna get that fucking APC.
Yeah, outmanned and they're in an armored vehicle.
Nope.
Yeah, and that was like, I could have had it so some of the guys, like more of the people, were outside, but I rolled and was like, I don't know, are they in the vehicle or are they out of the vehicle? What are they doing? And I rolled and it was like, nope, they're just hanging out in the vehicle right now, and someone's keeping watch through a periscope. You know what I mean? Like that was kind of what they were doing. I was like, all right, well then that's what they happened to be doing at that moment, and yeah, so but then I wanted to give him some information that it wasn't like an abandoned vehicle, and it was like, all right, well, you see a guy come out and take a piss, and then goes back in and he's talking to somebody, so it's more than just him, you know. So, and if like the plan, I mean, I don't know. I think it ultimately went south when I rolled really well for their recon to spot you guys sneaking in, and then they noticed it. That was when it was like and shifted. So. But realistically, if you guys started harassing them, they were gonna fucking leave. You know what I mean? They weren't gonna like You know, like that's I thought the plan was faulty from the get-go, but that was just me. Like I was the logic seemed flawed. And I was trying to go along with what you guys wanted to do, but it was also like, why would they just sit there and let you take them out one by one? They're in a vehicle that has wheels. Like they could just leave at any point.
Again,
you know?
we didn't know how many numbers they had.
True. Yeah.
So
Well, okay, let's say there were
ideally-
3 people inside.
here's the thing.
You take out one.
Ideally-
The other 2 might go, let's get the fuck out of here.
Ideally, we would have set up and spent more time doing reconnaissance. Like instead of doing it in the span of like, 45 minutes, we would have sat there for hours. Because that was even the original intent. Is like we were going to go and we were going to hang out, we were going to watch them, and then act. That was the plan.
Yeah,
But then we did not sneak well enough. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, he snuck decently. I just rolled fucking rocks.
no, he didn't.
for-
He methodically went across the road with one success.
Actually, I think he got 2, you got 1. I rolled 2 successes.
Oh
on
no,
there.
I didn't. I don't
You
think
got
I got
one.
any. Did I get one?
You got 1. Yeah. Because it was 2 and 1. Because then Chris brought it up. I was like, well, how did they see him when, you know, it's like, well, they saw both of you. The point is,
Right, and by the time
the first
he was
one, they were
crossing-
like,
yeah,
what the
by
fuck's
time he was
that?
crossing, they had Overwatch on that hex.
yeah, they were already like honed in and like, wait. If someone else goes running across, this is starting to look suspicious. All right,
Bam.
open fire. And then, yeah. All right, so we got a couple questions over here. First question, what are the odds of a helicopter showing up in the campaign? Asking since I know Adam adjusts things accordingly in either the core set or the urban operations lists at least one that is in Poland. Not
It did.
0.
It already did. We saw it.
Not 0. Yeah, I mean, it did. It flew over when you guys were at Jablonski's
Yeah.
house. Like it
Because there
that
was a
when
what the fuck moment with the helicopter flying over. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's in the urban operations. It's at Krakow, so that's where the helicopter is. I don't know if I'm using the proper conjugation on Krakow for that sentence, but it's fine. And so the helicopters, so it's at Krakow, so it could, you know, and then there's other ones that show up in other things that might, you know, at some point, but
Fun.
Well, we know there's at least a couple jets running around too.
yeah. Well, that's a whole other thing.
No, it's the same
We're gonna
one.
talk about
It's the
rogues.
same one.
No,
It's the same.
they firebombed the base the like early on, like episode 5 or 6. We
Yeah,
had that
yeah, the
base that we
tanks,
were trying to take, in the air support
Right.
came in.
What I'm saying is, it's the same jet.
Oh, that one was coming.
They fly really far.
They do fly really far. Yeah, but that's a rogues thing now that I think we're talking about, right? Like you guys are talking about the more recent thing in rogues.
There's a bit of a, we're crossing the streams here.
And that's fine. I mean, we can do that. These are all patrons, so they're probably up to speed on shit. But yeah. Well, the other thing is that one was an AT4, and the one that Kyle heard, it was at night,
and he was interior.
and he was inside. So we don't know what kind of jet that was.
A10.
Isn't that what I said? I said
You
A10.
said AT4.
Oh, I'm sorry, A10. Yeah, sorry, A10. I'm still thinking about the tanks, and it's early.
Fuck
I
all
gotta-
early.
Yeah. For Saturday, and but yeah. So the one that Kyle saw in Sweden, we don't know what kind of jet that was, and more than likely, since it's associated with the Marines, it's probably not an A10, because that's
They don't
not.
have those.
No, that's not their thing. More than likely, it'd be like an F-18, or like for that era, possibly a Harrier. If I really wanted to, like,
Oh, fuck those things.
for yeah, but for the 90s, that's, you know,
It makes sense. Yeah.
yeah. But also, those would often come off of like aircraft carriers, which would also be another thing that you could be like, wait a minute, because it could fly across that part of the country and, you know, come all the way inland and go back out because they have enough of a range that they can do that. So
Yeah.
maybe that's the more important question of those things is like, where is it coming from? Because
right.
it can't just
No,
fly around forever.
That's
With
always
all
my
of them,
question.
that's always been the question. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
every
Where
time
the
we've
fuck
seen
did
one,
that come from?
it's like,
Yeah.
where did they have enough of a stable position to land and take off planes?
And like resources,
Right.
Like alone.
Well, and then
Jet
the
fuel.
other thing, it's not so much because their resources, and that's another thing that I think is really cool about the setting, is like the resources aren't enough that they should be just flying fucking missions anyway. So that
Right.
means if they're doing something, there's a fucking reason for it. You know what I mean? Like they're not just send out one of the jets. You
to
know what
go
I mean?
on
It's like
patrol.
it's like no, we need to take that the fuck out. Send a jet. You know, and it's like very specifically targeted at that point because they don't have the resources unless there's a huge need for why they took out that target. Which interestingly, if you go back to the beginning of this, why did they target that spot? You know what I mean? Like what was it about that location with those tanks and those refugees that they were like annihilate it?
Oh, it was Cole's buddy. I guarantee it. That guy had information. They were either trying to rescue him or make sure that information died with him. One of the
Look,
two.
It didn't look like a rescue operation.
Here's the thing. We just bit right into the center of that Tootsie Pop, so the world may never know.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Well, at that time we were still just even trying to figure out the game. We had ducked like the first 4 things before that, and was like, you know what, we're gonna circle back around on this one.
That is one of the interesting things. Like I've gone back and listened to things and I'm like, and I think about like what you guys do and then like compare it to like the APC fight that we just had. And it's like, man, you guys have gotten way ballsier about the encounters that you decide to like jump into sometimes, like more recently compared to early on. Not saying it's bad. It's more interesting. You know what I mean? But like, there's times where I'm like, ah, all right, they avoided the encounter. All right, they avoided the encounter. All right, they avoided an encounter. But that's from we're doing this as a podcast perspective.
Right.
It's like, how are people entertained by this?
and that's I mean, that's got to be part of it that you have to, you know what I mean, stop and actually think about is when we're playing too, is if we tried to, I guess in lack of a better term, win this, you know what I mean, like and do this as elite military as possible. It's like 90% of what we would do, we would just avoid.
I gave up winning after Winkler died. I'm like, I guess I'm just gonna go through this. There's no winning. There's no winning.
Winning is surviving.
Right. That's what I mean.
Like I said,
it's like if winning is surviving, we would just avoid 90% of everything that shows up.
Yeah.
Good, bad, or otherwise. It's like, nope,
Yeah.
nope, dodge, nope. It would literally just have to, every time that we would end up in something, it would be if we failed the dice roll to just go out around it.
I have 5 dead characters. If winning is surviving, then
it was requested that we post somewhere a list of the PCs and like where they currently are, and like I guess if they're KIA or not, or you know, MIA or whatever. I think it would be fun and definitely something we could throw up on like the Patreon. That'd be fun to be.
That's a huge ass spoiler though.
Yeah, well, I know. That's why it would be one of those things where it's like, hey, spoiler alert, space. Like, here's all the characters thus far.
I think it should be in relation to Captain Emmett, though. I think that would be interesting from that standpoint.
Well, I just meant like we could be like, you know, such and such, Conus, Kentucky, you know, such and such, like just all the characters, and just be like where they currently are.
Yeah,
you know, something like Keanu, we'd be like Poland ? Somewhere in Poland, we assume.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, and I don't think it'll be that bad.
Vehicle. Who knows where he's at now?
Yeah, he's off somewhere.
MIA.
Yeah.
He's missing in action.
Yeah. ? All right, so let me see. Question from Brian from Glenn. Are you happy about having fallen into the role of leader in both campaigns? I mean, you're arguably a captain twice.
The
argument could
Skipper.
be
Yeah. That has happened completely by accident, and that was by no intention what I had hoped for. Especially being probably the least equipped out of anybody in our group as far as military service, gun knowledge,
It makes it funnier.
any of those things. I have the least of all of those
We put the
compared to
comedian
anybody.
in charge.
Yeah, I mean, even Kyle at least was like an Eagle Scout, was getting ready to be military. Has like copious amounts of gun knowledge. I'm kind of like, you guys are like an M4. I'm like, which one of the pew pews is that one? I gotta look in the book. The pew pew is okay. It's the little pew pew, not the big pew. Okay,
Or the
like I have like an idea. I know most of these guns, but most of my gun knowledge is video game based. So it's like, is this the fast one or the little one or the? So yeah, it's been a lot of me trying to teach myself so that I don't sound ridiculous, and you know what I mean, learning terms, things like that. Trying to play into the characters to the best of my ability, but at the same time, I have the least, so I don't know why I ended up commander twice.
Well, I think that goes into it being two different skill sets. Like you can be really good at like being a carpenter or whatever, but it doesn't mean you can lead other carpenters. You know what I mean? Like leadership skills and vocational skills are not necessarily the same skill set.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the exact reason why a lot of times, like, you'll have the platoons, right? And they're like led by this lieutenant who's like fresh out of fucking OTS, and then you have a staff sergeant that actually knows what the fuck he's doing.
Right.
You know, it's different. It's like there's a different, dynamic in that. Like that staff sergeant's been in for fucking 15, 20 years, depending on if he got busted down as a lance corporal or not.
E4, PFC, whatever.
Yeah, yeah. Eventually makes gunny somehow. You're like, wow, cool, great, he's a gunny now. That's awesome.
How?
It's barely eked in. But yeah, and then you have those, like those higher enlisted that are there because they've been in for fucking ever and they have that knowledge, and then the officers don't. But the officer's technically the leader, of the group. And OTS has a lot of officer training, school has a lot of, I guess, skills they teach them.
Do they?
I guess. All right. I'm gonna look for more questions. Let's see. Snap Ninja said he'd like a map of the encounter if it's still floating around somewhere. I thought I posted some on the Patreon.
I asked you to take shots of it because I didn't have the.
Yeah, I posted them after the fact,
scope.
and mostly because I think the first one I posted was like right when Emmett took his shot at the APC, like, and it's on the road and Emmett's over there. Like that's kind of where I started with the photos, because I don't think I had any image of the original starting position from the 300 fucking whatever it was meters away. But let's see. Snap Ninja also says Winkler is one I wanted to see where he was going character wise. Alas, it was not meant to be.
Yeah.
There's a lot of interesting shit about Winkler.
There was some really, really fun stuff with Winkler that we could have gotten into.
Yeah.
Well, and I felt the same way about Ellis too. Both of those characters seemed like they had a lot built to play with in the backstory that just didn't.
Ellis actually, Winkler, I had a much more concrete backstory for Winkler than I did for Ellis.
And he got taken out faster than anybody. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, Ellis actually got taken out much faster.
Oh, was it?
Winkler. Yeah, because Winkler went through like the whole church fight and like all that stuff, and then like Ellis was only around for like 3 sessions, 2 or 3 sessions. Was it?
Yeah, it was
Pretty close to the same.
Yeah.
But
I liked Ellis too, though. But
I liked Ellis. He was fun to play. But he didn't have necessarily anywhere close to the same background. But Winkler definitely had like a decent backstory that we could have gotten into, but never did.
all right. Glenn was asking if we have any of the first edition modules. He says he knows and likes the rewrites that Free Leagues, but there's a lot of material from the 80s and 90s, including trying to get back to the US, and saving a submarine. Answer: yes. I do. I do. And there have been a few times I've debated bringing some of that in, and I'm not ruling out that those things might come in. And one of the modules I keep like going back to that I think it'd be fun to run is the one where it's the USS Constitution in like the islands, which I think it'd be
I'm sorry.
fucking amazing.
You said the Constitution, like
Yes.
the
Yes.
mast
Yes.
ship. Okay.
Yes. That one.
We stole a sailboat.
And there's interesting backstory why I think it'd be really fucking fun to run that one. But and if I remember correctly, I think it's not actually the USS Constitution. It's like a replica of it that they were using for a film that has like engines. But don't tell Jeremy because he doesn't have headphones on and it won't mean anything to him. So nobody tell Jeremiah that detail. And I might change it for fun anyway. But I was thinking about running that one. Damn it. Would you pull up, Jeremy? Would you pull
Actually,
up?
so my wife found this at a thrift store. As all my books are falling down. But it's a old Ironsides, the Constitution, for very good reason. I don't have the book. You actually have the book, I think. Anyway, long story short, our progenitor was the one of the designers, the designer of the USS Constitution.
He was the first naval architect of the Navy.
Yeah.
The U.S. Navy, and was
Secretary of the Navy for a short
pro
time.
temp. Yeah, he was the
temp,
Secretary of the
interim.
Navy pro temp when they first set up the Department of the Navy back in 1812. He was the guy they put in charge of the Navy until the actual Secretary of the Navy was confirmed. So,
Either way, long story.
yeah, long story.
Short story.
So there's like some family history with that, basically.
Sorry, I'm gonna put some books up now.
I do have the book somewhere. I think it's on my shelf and I don't want to go get it. But I also have a painting over here that his brother did and gave to him. So, and it's like of a ship, but his brother was still in England, and he had moved to the U.S. back in like the late 1700s, but to build ships. So the Fox family originates from Cromwell, I think is where they are. Isn't it Cromwell?
What? Cornwall.
Foxes, Cornwall. Is it?
Well, sort of.
Whatever. Anyway, I couldn't remember the name of where they came from. But anyway, and there's still some of them there apparently. So I have long distance cousins that are in England still. Surprise, surprise, as a white dude in America. All right. Anyway, so there's that. So yes, I do. Long answer to the question. Yes, I do have some 80s and yes, Cornwall. Well, it's the southwestern section because it's down by damn it. Hold on. Now I feel like I got to look it up because Glenn's in the chat. damn Brits. Hold on, because I actually do know where it is. Or don't know where it is, but I know.
Falmouth.
Yes, Falmouth. That's where they are. They're in Falmouth.
And like, well, from that region. So like Falmouth and Plymouth is, historically.
Yeah, because I think that house is still
I have no idea.
there. If I remember correctly, like there's a cottage that's still there that he grew up in or whatever. But anyway. Long story. All right, let's get back to these questions. High price for OTS. Be nice about officers. They're special people, is what Glenn said. Look, I intentionally, we make fun of officers a lot, but that's because the three of us that were actually military were not officers. And Chris was the closest to it, but that's because he got conned into enlisting, which, instead of being an officer, which is a funny story too that we told last time. That's funny. It's amusing. Let's see. I mean, the camp in the beginning, not the village for context. You mean for the helicopter, Snap Ninja? You're talking about the tanks and stuff. That was what I was thinking too. Jeremy, are you reducing backstory lengths as more of them die? Economy of effort.
No, I don't think so. Some of them have more interesting tidbits than others when they come in. Like Clark had a very specific. I wanted him to be a very very specific archetype where he's just a normal dude. Like there's nothing really surprising about him. Like he's just this married guy that joins up, for his own reasons. And each one of them kind of has this note that I build off of. I didn't really have one for Ellis. But as far as like, mostly it's guided by the life path creation. And I kind of go, okay, well, why did they go from this to this? And that kind of informs who they are as a person. But as far as backstories, I try to make them relevant to the party and the story. Otherwise, it's like you're forcing this character into this narrative that doesn't fit at all and would otherwise just be an NPC that they come across and then they go away. But by trying to, make them relevant to what the party's doing, it makes it a much easier transition to bring them in. So it kind of adjusts as it goes. The backstories are, usually like one note, and then we'll make it work with the rest of it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because I feel like having some flexibility in the backstory is good, because then you can be like, oh, here's a great place for this to kind of fit in, and like you can adjust the backstory as the campaign goes, and then I mean, shit, that's what I do with the world anyway, so it's okay.
It's all kind of made up as you go.
I'm kind of constantly like adjusting the world a little bit to your guys' backstories and like what's happened and shit like that. And I think I talked about that on the AARPG thing when I was on there talking with those guys about like world building, like, and how minimal I've started doing that, because I feel like if I try to plan too much stuff, I'm just wasting effort planning a village that you guys never fucking go to, or planning an encounter that you guys just go around, and it's like, I'll just make it up as I go.
Wing it in the moment.
Yeah, and then it's like, well, that's canon now, I guess. That was dumb, but why did they do that? Other than just it was a dumb decision,
We do that a lot.
Yeah. All right, so that's why Clark hurt so much. He was one of us little people. Yeah, dude, the Clark one was, oh god, that was. I mean, because I think that was the first real PC death. Like Jacob had left, and then Clark, and it was abrupt. It was out of the blue, and it was just like a lucky fucking shot, and
it's like boom, heart shot.
Yeah.
Done. That I think that really illustrated the game we were playing right then. Because up until that point we're like, okay, blah blah, we're sneaking around, we're doing this shit, and then all of a sudden it was like, boom. It's like, oh right, this is fucking deadly.
Insanely so.
Yeah, and and that was the thing too. And what's really funny about it is there was the accident where I was. Well, no, it's funny. It's funny. The accidental, like, oh hey Jeremy, it's Clark's turn. Because I just had the list of like who was up next, and it was like, oh shit, right, it's not Clark's turn. And then it was like, oh well, you know what? Let's dive into that, into like what's going on with Clark, even though he's like
actively dying
or dead at that moment. Like let's do that turn. That'll be interesting. And that kind of turned into like those death scenes now that we do, and I'm really glad that we did that. But it was born out of an accident. Like I didn't plan on doing that when we started it. But
rude.
What?
What's Clark doing? He's fucking dying, you dick.
Well, yeah, but like I said, it was an accident, and I did that other times. It was like, Cole. Oh shit, right, Cole. But then it was like,
that was funny because you just kept doing
it. Well, then it became funny at that point.
It was like tragic, funny.
Tragic. But no, but I really like the death sequences. I liked being able to do that, and because then that led into the Harrison Stanislav one. Which I was like, these characters have been around for so long. This has to be a big one. You know what I mean? Like I can't just.
Well, and I mean, everybody still talks about the Dairy Queen.
Oh, the Cole one. Oh, that was so.
That was actually
that one's fun.
That was the first one that really like.
Mm-hmm.
The after death took the knife and twisted it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I don't know. I like the idea of the death sequence, but that's also because there's part of me I love Jacob's Ladder. You know, like that's one of my all-time like favorite fucking movies. And there's been times, and I'll tell you guys this, but whatever. There's been times where I've half debated being like, this whole thing is a death scene for Emmett.
That would be amazing.
Like he's actually dead back in the POW camp.
That's awesome.
Like that artillery came in and it was like boof, and they all died. And this is just like all happening within him. It's a dying brain. But nah, I don't want to do that. That would be cheap. I'm not going to do that. So don't worry. That's why I'm saying that, because I'm not doing it.
Yeah, it's
But I've
really...
thought about that for the last 2 years now. I've seriously debated that as like a campaign ending, like enter in a snow globe.
Yeah, that's very Deus Ex Machina. That's
yeah. I was like, I'm not doing that. I feel like it would cheapen everything up to this point, you know,
Yeah.
and that's why I wouldn't do it. But I like that as an idea, you know, especially if in a really deadly like game, you know, like yeah. Anyway, oh, let's see. Oh, where were we in these questions? Glenn, surely we've tried creating ourselves as characters. I have, and mine's in Sweden.
I didn't try, but Clark was actually really close.
Clark was close, yeah.
Like just background and stats and all that shit. I was like, this is actually this is probably the closest character to me, like as a person.
I have not.
Oh, Emmett's not you? You're not Emmett?
No. I have not.
I'm kidding.
In any way, shape, or form, in any actually game that we have played. There's pieces of me in like all of them.
And there have to be.
It has to be.
Yeah. It's like, but there's no I tried to make myself. I find myself to not be good at any of these things.
But yeah, no, I made me. That was one of the characters I made before we even started. I think recording this, I made me as a character in. I was like, well, he's a corpsman and he's in Sweden. This is where I am. I'm with 2-8, so that's where he is. So and not only did I make me, I made the guys from my platoon and my company and my battalion up there. Like I already know who's in charge of the battalion, of what's left of it.
Yeah, it's not a lot. There's not a lot of
No, it's 2-8 didn't do too great, but yeah. And I also used like my own personal history as a human being and my tendencies to inform what HM3 Fox is doing right now. He's not doing great. Let's put it that way. He's not in a good place. It was funny because in the player's manual, it has one of the like suggestions of like, you know, like tidbits about him, like in like the archetypes. And I kind of used one of those where it's like he has the tattoos of all of his dead comrades, like their names tattooed on him. And I was like, that's what I'm doing in Sweden right now. So there's an Adam with like covered in the names of his dead, you know, friends. So because it seemed appropriate. Yeah. He's also got a drinking problem.
What? I'm shocked.
Me too. It's weird. It's weird. It's like, you know. All right. So yeah, no, Bert and Ernie was awful. I'm a monster. Thank you. The mental image of that going on, then the Illume round going off, and the tank rolling up sold me. I was interested going in, but after that, I was sold and knew I'd listen and through to the end. Thank you, Snap Ninja. Thank you. I was pretty proud of that scene.
Oh, I said that when we always kind of joke amongst the group ourselves that it was episode 12 and then Parju that really kind of like showed us what this show was and what it was going to be. Because the fight with the captain and that group, as intense as it was, and you know the standoff that you know we were all sweating bullets going into that, and then Parju, how quickly things went bad, from bad to worse to more and more. like the thing, the bad things stacked up real quick, and things went south like fast. It really kind of set the tone for what the game is and where we were taking it.
Yeah, the Parju, I agree too. Like for me, then because it was 12 for me was when I was like, oh, okay, I see. But it was also a little bit earlier, and it was all of those like weird side conversations that happened when I was like, okay, this is all right. Okay, yeah, this is fine. Like
Like, what
this
is
could
your
be interesting.
favorite Dairy Queen treat, man?
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
it's not Blizzard specific. You know?
Let's see.
God, I love Jacob.
Jacob, yeah, Jacob's ladder twist would be great, but maybe it should be Jacob, not, Emmett.
The way that the only way that turns out is he's sitting in a trailer somewhere, stoned out of his fucking mind,
And the whole war was a dream.
and he's just like it's like Command and Conquer is just like on a start screen. He's about to play a video game.
He's playing
and he's
the
fucking
computer game
blitzed.
Twilight 2000.
Yeah, and he's just fucking.
There was a computer game Twilight 2000. By the
Was
way.
there? That's amazing.
Yeah, that's why I'm referencing that. Yeah. All right. Is the campaign over if Emmett dies? That's an interesting question. That's been an idea, but I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, I don't know. But that's also because I feel like that story would be done, but I don't know if the campaign would be done, if that makes sense. You know? Like, yeah, I don't know.
Adam and I have spent a decent amount of time talking about, like, how does this story end? Because at some point the story does need to wrap up and have an ending.
Mm-hmm.
But also, what does that
What
look
is
like?
that? Yeah. I have some ideas. I don't. Part of me at one point, because Jeremy brought that up too, is like, the story kind of ends if Emmett dies, and it's like, well, yeah, but that's only like,
it's only part of it, because there are other characters and there are other things happening.
Yeah.
So it's not. I mean, Emmett is for sure a big chunk of it. Like, finding Keanu's storyline is a huge.
To draw from other material, I have always kind of viewed the way that Adam has built our Twilight 2000, even doing like the Conus and those other parts and these other little where's Jacob at, and you get to see these little pieces here and there, and we kind of sometimes jump around with different episodes. It's always put me in mind of kind of how they've done like The Walking Dead, to where yes, at the beginning that was Rick Grimes' story with his family and that, but then by the end they took him out completely and the story continued on because you had got invested enough in these other characters.
Yeah, but it wasn't
without
as good.
him. That can happen too. That could probably still be said depending on where it goes after, but I'm just saying, like, you can remove, like, there are instances where you can remove that type of, like, this is the main character and still have enough of these, wrapping up the rest of the side characters kind of journeys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Glenn said the traditional answer is getting to a German port, but we've already gone way off base from that, which we have, because it was like, here's where you leave from, and you try to like leave and go back to the States, But yeah, we're not. That's not the game we're playing.
I think there's a part of me that thinks it would be kind of interesting, but this would totally depend on Brian and what character he wants to play. But if like Emmett gets to a point where he just kind of goes off and like goes by himself to search for Keanu, and then like the rest of us follow other storylines, or I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
That could totally be a thing.
I mean, that could easily happen.
Yeah.
I've even set up times where that could have been what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
I've set it up. It's like I'm
doing this.
Yeah, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Nobody else has to do this.
Right.
I am doing this, and it would be one of those moments if everybody else goes, no, we need to go over here because we heard about this thing and like we have to go over here. It's like, that's fine. You guys go that way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going this way.
Right.
Yeah.
We've just never had enough. I guess the bait has never been good enough for the players to go,
right,
let's do that.
Yeah,
right.
And as a referee, like I've been kind of just like relying on what are you guys doing, while also leaving the world big enough that we can like shift if we have to.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Pivot if
So,
need be.
So, short answer, yes, the campaign ends if Emmett dies. Long answer, only for Emmett. Because I do have ideas for an ending that I think would be really interesting, and there's one very specific one that I think would be my favorite version of an ending, but I don't want to tell anybody because
What's the fun in that?
yeah, what's the fun in that? It should be a surprise. It's also the one that I think makes the most sense, but that's okay. But yeah, that's led into like, what do we do after the, if this campaign ends, like, what do we do after that? And that's a whole other conversation that I don't feel like diving down right now because I don't know.
We still haven't figured it out.
Well, let's hold on. Will Emmett manage without Bruce? How will he make it without the real officer? I love the stolen valor Emmett storyline so much. It's so terrible. It's like it's so bad.
Well, I find it interesting because it does create a certain amount of like anti-hero characteristics in this, because Emmett's supposed to be like, Emmett started out as like this moral compass and this individual that's doing an almost altruistic thing of like trying to find his son and bring him home and like do these good things, but also in the same breath, he's not exactly a good guy.
Yeah. It's those little details that make it interesting.
Are we the baddies?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, I see what you're trying to do here, but also that's kind of fucked up.
Yeah, because if you look at like the wake of bodies behind him, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that are there because Emmett's trying to find his son. Like that's interesting.
That's why it was really fun to play Stanislav, and like their first meeting, like within like after he tortured a Russian soldier, Stanislav's like, "Are you sure you're the good guy?"
Yeah.
At that point, and it was just like, boom.
No, and that's what I think that's why I fell in love with Stanislav so much, is because he, you know what I mean, he rubbed up against Emmett's character so much because he wasn't even, you know what I mean, he wasn't American military, so he didn't feel like he had to fall in line.
Yeah,
and that was really Emmett's first interaction with somebody like outside that was like, maybe you're not what you think you are.
yeah. Are you sure that you're the good guy? Stanislav was a whole other thing, and I love that character so much, and I'm sad he's gone, but I'm happy with his story. Like it had a satisfying ending, even if it, I'm sad it ended. I was like, well, at least it ended well.
Yeah. Snapden just said that we would do a stellar job at an Alien RPG campaign, whether Patreon side of things or a potential next campaign when the T2K wraps up. That's literally, we've talked about that one.
That's because Adam loves horror. That's
I have a different idea for how to do it than that, but yeah.
Either way, it'll still be torture. But that's
like, I think the rule set would be interesting. I don't know. I have some ideas on how to do an Alien RPG game. But yeah, I love that system though too. All of the Year Zero ones I really like. I don't think we would do it as a Patreon only side of things, just for like legal reasons, unless we can get some sort of specific, approval from the IP owners to Aliens. Unless we have a conversation with Ridley Scott and he's like, yeah, that's fine.
Awesome. Thank you, Ridley Scott. Thank you, Ridley Scott.
But let's see. Emmett lost his white hat after the torture. He became Don Corleone and not John Wayne. And yeah. But I think that's interesting though, because we've tried to, with the game, not have it be like, like black and white, good and evil. It's like, no, they're just human beings with their own motivations.
Regrettably, Valentine was the first Russian PC we brought in, and he was also terrible.
He was.
But he was him being terrible happened before he was Russian.
That's fair. That's fair.
Like his story, like his background was awful, and then it was like, okay, well, how is this convict here? You know, and of course he's Russian. Like he would be local or some kind of like local mafia or whatever, and that, you know, blends it to that.
I do want to run Blade Runner at some point. I love that system that got brought up too. You know, as far as like character development, but also if we were running Alien, it probably would end up working something like Blade Runner anyway, like that kind of thing. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe Free League will come around and make the Twilight or the 2300 AD version of Traveler, where we could just like continue the Twilight 2000 story, but in the future, which could be fun. But I think my main reason for doing this was I was going to cover the APC ship, but we covered that early. We're getting close to what I wanted to kind of do as a time. Any other questions? Anybody else got anything? Any of you guys got anything?
Well, just with the Emmett's loss of his white hat, I think that's just, you know, I've always tried to play up Emmett's moral compass. I still think that he tries to follow one. He believes that he's following one. But in a world like this where survival and you have a mission in mind, there are always compromises that have to be made to continue.
Emmett's getting real. Look, after Emmett straight up shot Valentine in the face while he was sleeping, Emmett falls deeply into the ends justify the means category, which can be
when left up to one man's moral compass, absolutely. Is, you know, it showed, I think, really how far Emmett is willing to go to reach the goal, to reach that end zone kind of thing. It's like, oh, okay, so there's really, the line blurs when it goes to what furthers the mission versus, you know, what helps other people.
Having historical anecdotes of what happened in the original campaign would be cool in a 2300 campaign.
Yeah, but
it would be.
That would be fun, but I feel like it would be like a Lower Deck style reference to like Chief O'Brien, where it's like this innocuous character throughout the whole thing, and then suddenly like they're the most important person in all of history, and you're like, wait, why?
Wait, why was Oscar? He becomes like ruler of Poland. Yeah, like he's the one that like brings the country together and everything. That'd be amazing.
He was like tangential. Like he just showed up once.
Yeah, we screwed his name up every time.
I love that idea. All right, so I'm probably gonna call it a day. Thanks to everyone for joining us in the chat. I'm gonna probably, as soon as I get it typed up, put it up on the Patreon for the APC bullshit. And I may end up putting the video of this out there for everybody else too. So no one said anything too offensive, so I don't have to edit anything. I don't think so. All right. Most important person is Jacob. He becomes stoner in chief. I like that. I like that a lot.
That should be a position.
Yeah. there are some ideas about Jacob. Like that's kind of why I like to like jump back over to him too.
Love that character.
But I also like that. That's also why I like the idea of the CONUS thing, because it's like we get to like build that world if we take the story back to CONUS, you know, or whatever. I don't know. Mm-hmm. We're making it up as we go, and that's what's fun about it is emergent, you know, storytelling. So who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? Yeah, I thought doing this earlier was good. I don't know if this is better for anybody else, but weirdly, I kind of picked this time because it was like it works for Europe, it works for the US, and maybe if someone's in Australia, they could also show up. So that was kind of the idea of doing it early in a day, because it kind of falls in like a weird sweet spot. But and then that whole space between Australia and most of Europe, we don't really have anybody listening anyway, so it's fun. There's a large gap there where it's just they're not listening,
They might be. They might be.
and that's fine. All right, so thank you, everybody. And
Yes, Glenn, properly fuck off now.
wait, are we supposed to properly fuck off?
I think we all will. That's the royal we.
And everyone have a good night or day or morning, the rest of your day, whatever fucking part.